Hey everyone, Dan here. Before we get into it, if you enjoy these videos, please hit the like and subscribe button. And keep in mind that these are my own thoughts, opinions, and ideas. These are not meant to be, nor should you take them as investment or trading advice in any way, shape, or form. Do your own due diligence, put in the work for yourself, and make your decisions based on that. Enjoy.
All right, folks, here we are on Thursday, April 4th. We're going to take a look at Tell today. So Tell's been getting beaten up a bit lately. We see it has this obvious propensity for volatility, but in the range in which we've charted it, 130 down to 53, it's darn close at the moment of that low level. And, put in this sort of like cup appearing, I was sort of wondering at this period if it was going to put in a cup and handle. I think if I'm recalling the video correctly, that I was saying, I feel a little concerned that the handle may have dipped a bit too far. It did punch up and swung higher than this high, but it wasn't able to swing higher than this high. And then it had a pretty steep sell-off this day alone, minus 23%, and so on and so forth. So I thought I would throw in an additional level to the downside. It's still really thin price action, and it's not tremendously far away from the levels that we have charted already down to 53, but 49.54 looks like it makes sense to me if it does slip that 53 level. And then, the price action just gets really thin. And so we can continue to try to track it, trace it, chart it, any of those things. In fact, for the moment, I'll put in a level here based off of candle body, candle wick. But that's really all that there is to go off of as it pertains to that. So we'll see if it's able to get any bump from here. It did bump up relatively recently, but it shrugged off of that 67 level and fell through pretty easily, that 61 level. So the buyers didn't seem to want to show up at 61, sort of just let it slip through there. For the time being, at least, they are showing up above this 53 level. We'll see if that persists or not. If it does, we have all of these levels to the upside that are charted, and then we've added these couple to the downside. Now, on the think or swim side of things, we did relatively recently have a trigger and fire, and that's set off a pretty solid wave of bearish momentum, still sort of playing out today. Now, the question is, if it sort of stays where it is today, is this the beginning of the plateau? Right, every histogram, here, they all have a plateau. Sometimes they have hiccup candles, like we see here, like we see here. So they're not always perfectly symmetrical, but at some point we'll look for them to plateau. We don't know exactly how high or how deep they'll go, but this is pretty darn close, right? These are pretty even. It's definitely been sort of whittling away. The last several candles. So we'll see if that's sort of enough on the histogram side and it's going to start to put in some yellow candles, or if it's going to pick up and put in some deep red candles. That could be interesting to see. Here, like I said, we have the trigger and fire. That was a really good call up by the TTM squeeze indicator. Brought it from, if we just call the candle here about mid-range at about 80, and brought it down to about 51, so huge percentage change there, obviously. And then it sort of pulled itself back into the channel, but it couldn't quite reach the mid-range, right? It couldn't quite reach that bright blue line, except for the wick of this candle looks like it did, and then it fell short, and now is off of the mid-range and is off of the wave cloud. So my question is, was that the clear rejection of the mid-range and it's going to pull back further and push down? If so, then I would look for, some deeper sticks on the histogram to show the increasing bearish momentum once again. Or do we see, even though it's kind of wicked off and now it's resisted off of the wave cloud, do we see it catch some support on this lower mid-bound of the channel as it's been wicking up now for 3 or 4, probably 4 candle bodies, depending on how today ends. And can that provide it some, buying pressure? Granted, the wick ups are progressively downward, right? So it's just that buyers are stepping in, wicking up the candles at lower price points. So that can only sustain or maintain for so long, obviously. So we'll see sort of how that plays out. But, I'm kind of curious to see if this wick off of the mid-range was really the tell-all, and if this wave cloud is going to continue to build. Even as I'm making the video, you see this changed to yellow. So this is mighty close to a shift in momentum, but, obviously the tail of the tape of today's price action is going to be important. Now, like I said, it could be a hiccup candle, right? It could be it starts to draw down and then it picks up again. But ultimately, that, these often, sort of revert to the direction that they're going in anyway. There could always be some catalyst that comes in, some macro forces that come in that force it in a direction. But just based off the pure principles of the patterns that we're looking at, the chart setup that we're looking at, that could certainly be the case. So it's at an interesting kind of juncture here, super low on the levels on the Weeble chart, and sort of questioning whether or not we are plateauing slash sort of converting bearish momentum to increasing to receding on the histogram on the Thinkorswim side of things. So both charts kind of throwing out their own separate but equal interesting factors for Tell. All right, folks. I hope that your trading week has been going well, and as always, I appreciate you watching, and I will see you in the next video.